channel. Today's video is a really fun one. I have had this build for a couple months now and I could not wait to get it to you, and I thought, you know what, it's summer, a lot of European vacations are happening, and this really reminds me of my European vacations. Italy, Greece, you name it, Paris, and this really gives me Italian, Parisian, or even just French countryside vibes. That's the goal of this build. So I started with Lady Tremaine's Manor. This is an Eternity Isle. And we're going to start with the hedges, some plaza trees, and the square topiaries. And then because we don't have cypress trees, I'm using the fir trees. I'm using the tallest ones I can get in a row of 3. If you've ever been to a Greek or French or Italian winery, I've been to one in Tuscany, in Florence, and they have these gorgeous cypress trees and a lot of beautiful hedges and statues, and it is so magical. So that is what we're recreating here. And we're going to start with a lot of the Hercules items like the statues and the gazebos. We're also going to add our almond trees in a diagonal pattern in front of our topiaries. Idea was to create a little area that was adjacent or in front of our main build. I did end up moving this later, but this is the way I kept it. So I used 3 of the gazebos stacked, and then we're using some of the floral trellises as little fences to kind of close it in. And then we're going to drop all of our cottage core kind of items, and all of these craftable items really give that winery look. If you've ever been to one, you know that there's a lot of obviously barrels and jugs and wine, tables, wood items, tools, all types of cottagey / outdoorsy items. So we're going to use the tools, fiber, rope, potions, wood, firewood, crates, barrels, all these items to create this vibe that this is an outdoor little area where they have their barrels of wine, where maybe the workers sit and have their lunch. So just a lot of tools and craftable items. So if you are going to do this build, it is going to take a lot of your resources to craft these items. So definitely craft these items or get your resources before you start so that you're not stuck not being able to have enough resources to craft these items. I'm also using the tropical wood flooring as the bottom here to really make it feel enclosed, like this is a separate little house or kind of shack area. And then all I did was create little vignettes with the crates and tables and just made this little aesthetic underneath the gazebos, and you'll see it later. Go back to working on our house, and I'm going to create my little grape garden. And I started out by making these diagonal areas, but eventually you'll see later on I did end up filling up the space with a lot of grapes, and this took a lot of trial and error because it is really it is really hard to make it super even in the game, and I don't really have patience, so I kind of just eyeballed it and I just adjusted as I went. So it's gonna take a lot of digging and then looking in furniture mode, looking in furniture mode. So I did this multiple times. So I started with 2 rows that were diagonal, then I went to 3, then I went to 4, then I filled up other areas. So as I went on this build and did other things, I came back to this and adjusted as I went. So this is super customizable, of course, do whatever you want to do. I just did this style. And that little crate, sometimes that item, let me know if you guys ever experienced that little wooden crate glitches a lot where you put it down and then you can't move it. But I ended up leaving it because I thought it looked cute anyway, and later on in the build I will add a bunch of little random items, so it ended up working out. We're going to enclose this with some more hedges and plaza trees. To make make it feel even more magical and give it a little bit more of a Grecian vibe, we're gonna add the Hercules floral trellises. I thought the double bronze and red fences were so European looking, and they really give that super gorgeous, beautiful grape garden vineyard aesthetic. So I did go and craft some of those, as well as some more items. I added more grapes, and we are going to use some of that fencing in our build. For our entrance, I really wanted this to be grand, and I did use photos from Pinterest of different vineyards in the French countryside, in Greece, in Italy, and a lot of them have these really grand paths. Like I said before, I've been, and they have these gorgeous long paths that are like dirt roads that you have to drive up to. So to give it that aesthetic, I'm using a non-bordered path. I don't know if this isn't the muddy path. I think it's the gravel path. So we're gonna do a long gravel path with statues, fountains, and really make this look grand with the lion statues, and we're gonna fill it up. Now for in front of the house, we're gonna fill this up with even more bushes and make it look super trimmed and make it look like there's some really beautiful hedges and make it look really grand and gorgeous. One of the antique it's like Ancient's Landing or Eternity Isle little boats, and we added a bunch of greenery to the water, a lot of lily pads, cattails, and I really filled this up to the brim, to the point where I got tired. I used so much of the water foliage, but I thought it really helped add to that lush, vibrant green feeling. In some of the empty areas, I really wanted this to feel like you entered a super lush grounds. So we're gonna add more fir trees, more of the small oak trees. This just really gives it that cypress tree vineyard aesthetic. I'm also adding in the rock rugs as an entrance and to create a path from the entrance to our home, again, to really elongate this and make it feel like you came a long way and had to travel down this long path to get to the vineyard. I'm also adding some of the craftable benches right in front of the house, and I think this looks so cute. The extra brown tone just really adds in more of that wood element. A lot of browns and greens in this build, and reds, terracottas, things like that. I also added some of the water pumps, some of the jugs, and then I used the water tiles underneath those to really make it look like the grapes are getting watered constantly. Of course, a lot of the terracotta craftable jugs here. We're gonna put a ton of these jugs everywhere, and this really brings home that aesthetic that there's just wine overflowing in our vineyard. Now for extra detailing, I'm going in with some bags of seeds, and I'm also dropping in grapes as well, some pieces of soil, and these just really add that realistic element here. Adding ferns to the path and adding a lot of little droppable items make it feel so much more realistic. I'm also adding in another cart I think it looks really cute to have the barrels and the carts here where the grapes are. It just makes it look like someone is really working on this area, and you can see that the grapes are constantly being harvested. As I mentioned before, I did end up changing this little area because I noticed that when I was walking in front of the build, I could see the build and it was obstructing the view. I could see the gazebos. So I moved it back and I just adjusted, and I ended up creating this cute little area with a table, barrels, sacks, chairs. I wanted it to look like this is a little spot where you can have a romantic dinner for two after you get your wine, or even a spot where the employees stop midday, a little area where maybe they have some shoppable items. So I'm going to create this little nook that almost looks like a little shop slash resting area. I ended up crafting a stall and a stone well. As you can see, I added the oil lamps and crates. I also added some waterfalls, just really wanting this area to feel grand and large. I'm also extending the leaf path under the rock rug. I think this looks really, really nice and really natural. And for our gazebo build, I am adding logs. I am adding more droppable items, a water bucket, and more trees. As I mentioned before, I did go in with a bunch of grapes and just drop those around the build. I think having the actual grapes dropped around everywhere just makes it look so cute and so realistic, because if you go to a vineyard or an orchard, if you go to an apple orchard or a farm of any kind, you'll see like fruits and veggies that just fall from trees and they're just like on the ground. It makes it feel so much more realistic. For the final touches, I am going to add some more barrels in the area, as well as droppable items like seeds, grapes, bags of seeds, sacks, a tool set, and more of the craftable jars, the jugs, the clay jugs. I also added some droppable items like fiber, rope, sacks. It just really, really adds to that realistic vibe. Also some lamp posts, and I just am obsessed with how this turned out. I just love this so much. It really feels like a full vineyard, a full estate. I love the little side build where it looks like they're selling their wine and some fruit and veggies. I just imagine having like this little side farm where they sell to the neighborhood. And this is the final look. I also randomly threw in some extra grapes that are just growing randomly outside of the main grape area, because to me, it's kind of realistic that, you know, some grape seeds would just randomly end up in different spots and they would just naturally be sprouting in different spots. It just makes it feel so much more realistic, and I am completely obsessed with this build. This is actually my main house in Eternity Isle because I love this build so much. So every time I open the game, I'm here, and it makes me so happy because I love Europe and I love vineyards, and this is just like really truly my aesthetic. It's so just glamorous, elegant, rustic. I love it. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like at different times of day. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. Let me know if you're going to try to recreate this. I'll see you in the next one. Stay fun and light and have a good day, and keep gaming and healing your inner child.